Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the number on her phone screen: $47.83. That's all that remained in her checking account, and rent was due in 3 days. The fluorescent lights of the cramped apartment kitchen buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the stack of unpaid bills scattered on the counter. In the next room, she could hear her 4-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, arguing over the last crackers in a nearly empty box. The sound pierced through her chest like a knife, reminding her of every promise she'd broken, every maybe tomorrow she'd whispered when they asked for things other kids took for granted. She pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back tears that threatened to spill. How had it come to this? 2 years ago, she'd been married to tech mogul Marcus Chen, living in a mansion with more rooms than they could ever use, never once worrying about whether there would be food on the table. Now, after a bitter divorce that left her with nothing but custody of their children, she was counting pennies and praying the old Honda would start one more time. The divorce settlement had been brutal. Marcus's team of lawyers had painted her as an unfit mother, a gold digger who'd trapped their brilliant client. They'd frozen assets, questioned every expense, and somehow made her feel guilty for asking for child support for her own children. In the end, exhausted and broke from legal fees, she'd accepted almost nothing just to escape the nightmare and protect Emma and Ethan from the ugliness of it all. Sarah pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, where she kept a running grocery list. She'd learned to be strategic about every purchase, calculating protein per dollar, stretching every ingredient into multiple meals. Rice and beans had become staples. Generic cereal instead of the colorful boxes her kids saw in commercials, store-brand everything. And even then, she had to make choices that broke her heart. Her list was painfully practical: rice, dried beans, peanut butter, bread, milk, eggs, bananas, chicken thighs, cheapest cuts, pasta, canned tomatoes, oatmeal. She added up the estimated costs in her head. It would be close, maybe $45 if she was careful and stuck to the sales. The twins would eat, but barely, and she'd probably skip lunch again. As she typed, muscle memory kicked in, and her fingers automatically selected Marcus's contact. They'd been married for 6 years. Texting him had once been as natural as breathing. Now, they barely communicated except through lawyers and terse exchanges about pickup times. But her phone, stubborn in its remembrance of better times, had auto-selected his number. She hit send without thinking, her mind already moving to the next problem: how to explain to Emma why they couldn't afford the art supplies she needed for her preschool project. Across the country in his corner office overlooking San Francisco Bay, Marcus Chen was reviewing quarterly reports when his phone buzzed. Sarah's name appeared on the screen, and his stomach tightened. Their communications had been cold and formal since the divorce was finalized. Usually, it was about changing pickup schedules or school events. He almost didn't open it, expecting another terse message about logistics. Instead, he found himself staring at a grocery list: rice, dried beans, peanut butter, bread, milk, eggs, bananas, chicken thighs, cheapest cuts, pasta, canned tomatoes, oatmeal. The words hit him like a physical blow. Cheapest cuts, generic everything. This wasn't the Sarah he remembered, the woman who used to debate between organic strawberries and regular ones, who'd filled their kitchen with exotic ingredients for elaborate meals she'd cook on weekends. This was desperation itemized in a smartphone note. Marcus leaned back in his leather chair, the weight of realization settling on his chest. He'd been so angry during the divorce, so convinced that Sarah was trying to take advantage of him, that he let his lawyers handle everything. He'd told himself he was protecting his business, his future. But looking at this list, he saw the truth he'd been avoiding. His children were living in poverty while he sat in a building he owned, wearing a watch that cost more than most people's annual salaries. Emma and Ethan, his babies, the twins who used to climb into his lap during video calls when he was traveling, who'd wait by the window for his car every evening. When was the last time he'd really thought about their daily lives? When had he become a stranger who saw them every other weekend and thought that was enough? His assistant knocked and entered. "Mr. Chen, your 3 o'clock is here." "Cancel it," Marcus said, not looking up from his phone. "Cancel everything today." He opened his banking app and initiated a wire transfer, $500,000, enough to cover rent for years, to fill their pantry, to let Sarah breathe again. In the memo line, he typed, "For the twins," but as his finger hovered over the confirm button, he realized money wasn't enough. He'd thrown money at problems his whole life, thinking it solved everything. This required something more, something that terrified him more than any business negotiation: a vulnerability. He called his driver and asked to be taken to the modest apartment complex in Oakland where Sarah lived with their children. The 40-minute drive felt like the longest of his life. Sarah was stirring a pot of rice and beans when her phone buzzed with a bank notification. She glanced at it dismissively, probably another overdraft warning, but the number made her drop the wooden spoon. $500,000 deposit, from Marcus Chen, memo, for the twins. Her legs gave out, and she sank onto the kitchen floor, staring at the screen. It had to be a mistake. Marcus had fought every dollar of child support, had made her feel like asking for grocery money was an act of greed. This didn't make sense. A knock at the door interrupted her shock. Through the peephole, she saw Marcus standing in the hallway, still wearing his expensive suit but looking smaller somehow. Uncertain, she opened the door, her phone still clutched in her hand. "What is this?" she whispered, holding up the screen. "You sent me your grocery list," he said simply. "I saw what you were buying, what you had to buy." Emma appeared at Sarah's hip, peeking around her mother. "Daddy?" she said tentatively. It wasn't his scheduled weekend. Ethan joined them, both children confused by this unexpected visit. Marcus knelt down to their level, his composure cracking. "Hey, babies, I missed you." "We're having rice and beans again," Emma announced matter-of-factly. "Mommy says it's good for us." The simple statement broke something inside Marcus. He looked up at Sarah, seeing clearly for the first time the dark circles under her eyes, the way her clothes hung loose on her frame, the exhaustion she wore like armor. "I'm sorry," he said, and the words carried the weight of 2 years of anger and pride. "I'm so sorry." Sarah felt her own walls crumbling. "Marcus, I can't accept this money. It's too much, and we didn't agree to anything," he interrupted, standing. "My lawyers steamrolled you while I hid behind my hurt feelings and my pride. I convinced myself you were the enemy when really, I was just scared of failing at marriage the way I failed at everything else that mattered." The twins watched this exchange with wide eyes, sensing the shift in the adult world around them. "I don't want to just send money," Marcus continued. "I want to be their father. Really be their father. Not just every other weekend, not just presents and Disneyland trips. I want to know what Emma's favorite book is this week. I want to help Ethan with his puzzles. I want to be someone they can count on." Sarah's tears finally came. 2 years of holding everything together dissolving in the face of this unexpected grace. "They need you," she whispered. "We all need you, not your money. I've been so tired, Marcus, so scared." He stepped forward hesitantly, and when she didn't pull away, he wrapped his arms around her and the twins, feeling like he was coming home for the first time in years. That evening, they ordered pizza, not because it was cheap, but because it was what the kids wanted. They sat on the living room floor, sharing stories and rediscovering each other. Marcus learned that Emma had taught herself to read by sounding out words from cereal boxes, and that Ethan had been drawing pictures of their family with 4 stick figures, always including a daddy even when daddy wasn't there. The money in Sarah's account was life-changing, but the real transformation was quieter, built from small moments. Marcus kept his word. He showed up for school plays and doctor's appointments. He learned to braid Emma's hair and helped Ethan build elaborate block towers. He and Sarah went to counseling, not to repair their marriage, but to learn how to be better co-parents, better people. 6 months later, Sarah found herself in a real grocery store, not calculating every purchase but simply choosing what her family needed and wanted. She still made rice and beans sometimes, but now it was because the twins had developed a taste for her cooking, not because it was all she could afford. The grocery list that had accidentally been sent still lived in her phone, a reminder of how quickly life could change, how a single moment of vulnerability could open doors that pride and fear had sealed shut. She kept it there not as a memorial to hardship, but as proof that sometimes the most beautiful gifts come disguised as mistakes. Marcus had learned that being a father wasn't about providing from a distance, but about showing up, consistently and completely. The twins learned that families could break and heal, that love was more complex and resilient than they'd ever imagined. And Sarah learned that asking for help wasn't weakness, that was the first step toward letting others love you the way you deserve to be loved. The grocery list had been sent by accident, but everything that followed was a choice, made again and again, to choose connection over pride, love over fear, and family over everything else that seemed important but ultimately wasn't. In the end, the most precious items weren't on any shopping list. They were the intangible gifts of second chances, forgiveness, and the courage to try again.